Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by patrons like Ahangao Comics, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, Nestor Flores, Sotosan0424, and VideoGamer75. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episode earlies and lots of other goodies. And it really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. Oh, and strap in. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's time once again to talk about Star Wars Legion by Fantasy Flight Games. So Gen Con just happened. Well, Gen Con is happening. At least while I'm recording this still. FFG did their in-flight report. There's a whole big video I did on that, not just about Legion, but also Armada, X-Wing, Genesis, some other stuff that's out there, and so on and so forth. Some other opinions on the presentation overall, moving through. But that's not what we're here to talk about, kind of. Because while all the things we are about here to talk about were announced at the in-flight, some of them are not included in this block. And also, just in general, that didn't have a lot of detail at the time. Also, for pre-release, in addition to the Clone Wars core set, which has all been spoiled and everything, so there's no real purpose to doing a video on it. People already know everything already. But Shore Troopers and Dewbacks were also pre-released, so there are pictures of that floating around. And there's been a new RRG update and all kinds of other stuff. So, that's a separate video, which you can find in the end card if you wait to the end of the episode, or it'll be up on the channel at about the same time, I'm sure. It'll definitely already be out by the time this is out. Funny how that works. But anyway, so we're here to talk about a wealth of things. I'm tentatively calling this video Clone Wars Wave 2, because I know that while Legion is not necessarily released or announced in waves, usually it is sometimes developed in waves, and this is very much like a wave-type announcement. Like, these are being staggered out over mostly the first couple quarters of next year, I believe, is how it's going to work out. But, you know, we're still getting a big announcement block. We got those all at once at Gen Con, okay? So I'm going to hit them all at once. So, today we're going to talk about the announcements for Count Dooku Commander Expansion, Clone Captain Rex Commander Expansion, B2 Super Battle Droids, and Phase 2 Clone Troopers Core Unit announcements, and the TX 130 Saber-class fighter tank heavy expansion, and the AAT Trade Federation battle tank. Tank is in that twice, because that's what the T is. Heavy unit expansion. Alright, so you got all that, so stay tuned for all those stuffs. We're going to talk about them. And, well, no time like the present. This video is going to be forever anyway, so let's just jump on into those new things. Alright, so first off, we have the late, great Christopher Lee himself. No pajamas are found, but it is the Count Dooku Commander expansion with a lovely likeness. Also, looks like he's got a couple different arm poses, because, like, the preview inch is raised, but the 360 spin is, lowered. So that's cool. These can probably be cape or no cape. No capes. So, Dooku's going to be the second commander for the Separatists. He's one mini commander. He looks like he's 205 points, because I really hope he's not 285 points. You know what I'm saying? All right. So he's going to have a red defense die. He has 6 health, 3 courage. Not the worst. You know, he's not as rough and tumble, but that's the same as Luke in terms of raw stats. He does have a red defense die. And he has surge to crit on offense. He's speed 2. So despite being old, he's not as slow as Vader. So he's got 3 force pips and a command upgrade. So he's got kind of a unique slot here. He brings a lot of force powers. And he does have the Master of the Force ability. It's 2, I want to say. Also, let's read his keywords first. So he's got Deflect and he's got Immune Pierce. Pretty typical. He also has Cunning, which is if you reveal one of his specific command cards, this is the same thing that Director Krennic had. If you reveal one of his specific command cards, it counts as 1 pip lower for tie-breaking. So if you reveal a 3 and they reveal a 3, you go as if you had revealed a 2. If you reveal a 1 and they reveal a 1, you go as if you had a 0. If Han reveals a 0 and you reveal a 1, you lose, etc. I believe that's how that works. Not super familiar with Krennic, sorry. He also has the Makashi Mastery ability. This was just in the RRG that was explained. And so while performing a melee attack, you may reduce your Pierce by 1, and it's exactly like I called it in that discussion. He's got a Pierce 2 weapon. If you do so, the defender cannot use Immune Pierce, and the RRG clarifies that also counts to Impervious. And then Master of the Force 2, like we mentioned on top. So he's got 2 weapons. He's got Dooku's lightsaber, which is, I'm doing some math, that's 5 red dice, melee obviously, impact 2, pierce 2, pretty typical for lightsabers, a hard hitter, and he can drop that pierce by 1 to get, defeat immunity to pierce and impervious, so he can still hit armored units pretty hard. And then he's got Dooku's lightning. At first I was like, Dooku's lightsaber again? No, it's lightning, because that's what his command card is showing and stuff. We'll talk about that one in a second. So this is range 1 to 2. It is a Pierce 1 scatter. In case you don't know, scatter lets you recohere a unit after you hit them. Basically, you can move the minis around, the non-unit leader minis around as if they had just done a speed 1 move, basically, and recohere them. And it's got Pierce 1, and that has 5 black dice. So on the one hand, better than Vader, better than default Vader. He has a strong melee attack, and he has a decent ranged attack. You know, he's got range 1 to 2. He's going to be moving around a lot. He's speed 2. He does not have charge. He does not jump. He's old, okay? He doesn't get a lot of ups. He does not jump. He does not have spur. He does not have expert climber. He doesn't have any gear slots. So he has speed 2. He cannot necessarily use it the best, right? Because that's one thing you can always say about a speed 1 guy, right? Never bother with difficult terrain. If you're Vader, you have Relentless. If you're Luke, you have Charge, you know? You don't care about any of that. Dooku doesn't have any of that, okay? So unless his command cards kind of count some of that, he's going to be a bit of a slow mover, right? You're going to have to be much more precise and thoughtful with your action choices. Okay? So you're going to have to think hard about how you want him to act and what you want him to do. Okay? We can see some of the stuff that's in his pack before we talk about his command card. He's got Esteemed Leader, which makes sense. You know, he does only have 6 health. He also has 3 Force upgrades in there. One of them is Hate, which would mean he gets Demoralize 1. He can also take Anger, which after he suffers 1 or wounds, he gains 1 aim token. It's only 5 points, but he's very expensive, so I don't know. He's the beautiful thing is that, as we discussed earlier, at least with B1s, you can, take a fully loaded kit of B1s and still have plenty of room for Dooku with toys, much like Grievous, so it's a thing. And then he also has, like I said, Fear, which gives you Demoralize 1, so enemies who are near you gain suppression tokens. Probably a good idea. And we don't know what the third one is, but it's probably another fairly common one. Choke would be a good call, but who knows, maybe it's new. No need for Saber Throw, he's got his own built-in ranged attack, and he, like I said, can't Relentless. Anger's probably a good one, as is Fear. Maybe Hate. I'm going to put Hate in there. Hate, Anger, Fear. Suffering. I don't know, Suffering is Dooku and Palpus's command cards. So his command card we can see is he's got the 3-pip, You Disappoint Me, Count Dooku and 2 units. When Count Dooku issues an order token to a unit, that unit gains 1 dodge token. After Count Dooku performs a ranged attack against a trooper unit, he may perform a speed 2 move with that unit. So, yeah, that's right. After you do a ranged attack, you can blow guys out. This is a pretty powerful control option because it's like, okay, I'm going to issue an order to me. And 2 units. Everybody gets aim tokens. And then not only am I going to blast you with a Pierce 1 scatter attack. So scatter doesn't matter because you're making him do a move anyway. But you're going to blast you with a Pierce 1 attack with an aim token with Surge to crit. And then if anybody's left, I'm going to throw you, basically fling you 2 speed away, presumably straight back or something or other. There'll probably have to be some FAQ clarifications on difficult terrain and other so on and so forth because it says perform a speed 2 move. So I don't think you can hop difficult terrain. I don't know if you can use their own abilities like jump and stuff. That will require some FAQ clarification. But still, pretty potent. Pretty fun stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing more out of his command cards. By default, he's expensive, but otherwise, like I said, this appears to be the primary separatist move is you can build your army on the cheap. You can get all those activations and stuff that people say you want. You can get relative immunity to snipers, for instance. Oh, gee, you wasted a whole activation to plink off 1 droid trooper. Do you know how many more of those guys I have? Kind of thing. Same with this, Esteemed Leader is a great pick on Count Dooku for 5 to just be yeah, these scrub droids are going to take the hit for me. And he's got a very interesting way of attacking enemies who are immune to pierce. and impervious in melee. But he doesn't have all the mobility options we've come to expect from a lot of these guys, right? So he's going to be a bit like Palp and Vader, and be slow going, as opposed to Grievous, who with scale is freakishly mobile. He's scary good at that. Check out the RG update or that video if you want to know more about what scale does. And disengage. Note that Dooku doesn't have disengage either. But anyway, he looks like a lot of fun. I think he kind of captures a lot of what the Separatists are going for. And I like his options, and I like some of his unique flavor. We'll see what happens with him later. Let's move on to the next commander. So next up, it's your boy, Clone Captain Rex. He's a commander. So Captain Rex is looking like he's a mere 90-point commander. Pretty typical for this kind of stuff. He's the El Cheapo commander. You know, the slightly buff infantryman commander. He's 1 mini, obviously. He's 5 health, 2 courage. Pretty middle of the road for that level of commander. Got a red defense die, though, as you expect from clone troopers and their armor. And he still has Surge to crit on offense, so he's pretty scary. He doesn't have any Pierce, but, you know, like I said, Surge to crit and red dice. He's speed 2, obviously, which is pretty normal for an infantryman type guy. He's got Gunslinger, because he's got 2 guns. By the way, this is something people have wondered about, like Han. They're like, you know, like Sabine has Gunslinger. She has 2 guns. Rex, obviously, has 2 guns also. By the way, if you're curious, his sculpt appears to... His kit will come with multiple heads. You can do him helmet off, and you can do both phases of helmets if you want to have different synergy with different eras, basically. Anyway, but, like, I do want to point out, Han has Gunslinger. He only has 1 gun. He's just that fast. But yeah, so he's got Gunslinger, so he gets to double tap. He's got Scout 1, so he automatically moves 1 speed without needing to attach the recon intel that comes in this pack. And then he's got Scouting Party 2, so we covered this in the RRG update, if you want to know more, and I speculated that would be Rex's thing. But basically, Scouting Party is after you scout, you can pick a number of units equal to X, they scout with you at the same speed. And I believe they can't also have scouted already, but still, pretty fun. So that means he can scout up to 2 with recon intel, and he can drag up to 2 trooper units with him. Very cool. He's got Sharpshooter 1 and Tactical 1. And Tactical is when you perform a standard move, you get an aim token. So for basics, he's got Advanced Combat Training, so he rolls 2 red dice with Surge to crit in melee. So he doesn't have, like, Pierce or anything. Like, he doesn't have anything fun, but he's not necessarily a pushover in melee either. And he does have training, so you could give him Tenacity, right? He could roll 3 melee. Like, he's not going to outbox a Wookiee, but he punches up pretty good in close quarters. He remembers the basics of CQC. But mostly what people are probably going to be curious about is his dual DC-17 hand blasters, which he can double tap with, which are 3 red. So no Pierce, but you do have Sharpshooter 1, and you have Surge to crit and Tactical 1. So that's 3 hits basically guaranteed. You will almost always be rolling hits on all 3 of those dice. So I'm kind of glad he doesn't have Pierce. There's a lot of Pierce in the game. I'm kind of glad that he doesn't have Pierce. Instead, he just has 3 dice that roll good. So that's actually pretty good. We've talked before about how you're probably going to see some different strategies. Some people are going to have to play a little bit different. I know some Clone Wars players, some new players are kind of like, oh man, my armies won't be competitive, right? They won't be very flashy for months, you know, because the official release for the Clone Wars starter is basically speculated to be early September, and then it's not until probably January before the next set comes out, which is a little slow. It's a little sad, though technically the Escape Pod pack that has R2-D2 and C-3PO in it will have a unit that is compatible for Republic. We'll see if there's future announcements coming, because they said it like Gen Con Q&A that wasn't streamed. They're also got some stuff that's not announced yet. They're not finalized on the schedule either. But if you're Separatists, you have a very unique army right away, right? Like, you've got your Droidekas are a vehicle that's very shield reliant. They don't rely on armor, so impact is worthless against them. People want to bring, like, Ion instead, which is not very common. Similar with your regular B1 droids, they're not very good, but you have so many of them. Like I said, especially while your options are narrow, there's no reason not to take all of them with bells and whistles. And that's a lot of bodies on the table that your opponent has to deal with. And, like, chip damage, like, if, I have, 2 red dice and Pierce 1 and Sharpshooter. Okay, good. You shot 1 to 2 You shot 1 to 2 minis off my 8-man body. I have 8 men in this squad. You in one attack have chipped off 2 of them. Meanwhile, Clone Captain Rex over here, when he does come out, he has Gunslinger, so he can attack twice, and he has 3 reds with Sharpshooters, and Surge to crit. So it's entirely likely that he can wipe a squad of naked B1s because they have weight and defense dice and no surge, so they will probably not be blocking for shit. He can wipe off a squad in a turn with just a pow, or lots of pews, anyway. Did I ever tell anybody about the time in my Star Wars RPG session? Our Verpine Gunslinger actually did that. He actually wiped out 2 minion groups of 3 in one attack with his abilities. Blam blam. Anyway, so Rex, I think, has a decent strategy. Also, love Scout and Scouting Party. He's going to be very interesting to, take units with him, especially since, goodness knows when they'll get to Special Forces and what those guys will look like. Because we're seeing some very interesting and divergent gameplay here, right, with design. So, what we got up, though, is, for upgrades, he also has a Steamed Leader. That's pretty typical. He's got Emergency Stims, Recon Intel, and he's got Smoke Grenades. And then he's got something else, which is probably a training. Upgrades I put on him, Smoke Grenades, of course, because they're good. Smoke Grenades are really good, and if they're cheap enough, I think they will be your default grenade from now on, because everybody loves popping smoke. Recon Intel is, again, it's an easy sale on him. Though I could see the Emergency Stims route to give him more durability, especially if he's your only commander, which he might be because Republic is a very expensive army. This is... Clone Captain Rex is going to be your Veers, basically, if you're thinking about this in, the previous 2 faction terms. He's relatively cheap compared to your other commander options, and your default units are very expensive. So, you're gonna want to bring him, okay? Similarly, a Steamed Leader is probably a good idea for him to, keep him alive. On the other hand, maybe you don't want to sacrifice clone bodies, so it might be better to give him something like Duck and Cover, and give him, Commanding Presence might be good. Aggressive Tactics is also a really good card that's been previewed. Anyway, the one command card we can see is We're Not Programmed. Kind of neat. So this, first of all, 4 Clone Troopers. That's right, 4 units. Clone Captain Rex gains Inspire 2 and 2 Surge tokens. This is regardless of whether you give him an order. When Clone Captain Rex activates, he recovers. So, this is a great effect to be like, Nabra. No, new, away. Inspire 2, here, let me just slurp up all this suppression. Give myself 2 Surge tokens. I'm going to issue orders to 4 units, which is going to be probably my commander and all my core units who are left, and also, all kinds of other stuff. It's very synergistic with the army, and it works out pretty good. And it gives him 2 Surge tokens and lets him recover. And I believe Aggressive Tactics is a deplete. But still, that's cool. That's pretty neato. So I think that's all there is to talk about Rexy boy. So let's move on to those core units. So first off, for those core units, presumably premiering with Rex himself, we've got Phase 2 Clone Troopers. So these guys have slightly different armor and handling equipment, and also are meant to reflect more experienced clones who have been doing this for a while. I'm not seeing a lot of commas on the minis. Commas are your kind of battle skirt thing. But they are in the art, so I hope they're in there as maybe an option. Love the comma. So, these guys are 60 points for 4 units, default. They're 15 points per mini, okay? But for that, you get 1 health still, you get a red defense die, no surges, but you do get Courage 2 in a default trooper unit, and they have a training slot. So basically, with Phase 2 Clone Troopers, we're skipping the CQB guys, right? Because that's a thing. The previous 3 core units that have been announced and now released, because veterans are officially out and short troopers are pre-released, was basically you got your basic bitch infantry, who are your most simple and most flavorful, which for clones is just they have fire support in their clone troopers so they can share green tokens. Rebels have their slight dodge focus, Imperials have their aim focus, CIS has the we're cheap as hell but there's a lot of us and their special AI thing to tangle with. And then the second ones are normally okay, so fleet troopers and snow troopers, these are guys who have close quarters options or interesting mobility, interesting kind of short game options. They're good for deploying in cover and close quarters stuff. We're skipping that step with clones and going straight to these guys are more expensive and have training slots but are better. So Phase 2 clone troopers have fire support still, but they also have a new keyword, Reliable 1, at the start of the activation phase. So not when you get an order, not when you activate. At the start of the activation phase, gain 1 surge token. So surge tokens let you spend a single surge token to convert a single surge. So these guys always, so long as they exist and are on the board, have a surge token. They start with at least 1. That's great. That's amazing. Like, it doesn't matter if these guys get shot at first, then they'll have a surge token at least. And if they don't get shot at, maybe they can turn it into attack. They're still speed 2. They still have 1 black die on their unarmed, and they still have 1 black die in their DC-15A blaster rifle, range 1 to 3. Pretty typical. They have heavy weapons, personnel, training, gear, and grenades. We can see that the 5th mini costs 15 points, which is a little gross, but, we'll figure that out. So, I mean, for 8 more points, you get an extra courage, and you get a free surge token. Not terrible. I would say that these guys don't have detachments, obviously. The one of their heavy weapons is a mortar team guy, so that's cool. We'll talk about that in a second, what we can see about that. But, so I don't know, like, the prices. Very curious, though, what we'll do here with them. I don't know if you'll want, like, with Captain Rex, you can definitely go deep on that, right? Like, you can definitely go, I'm going to use the cheaper commander, and I'm going to stock up on these bad boys. Because they also get the Z6, which presumably will be identical to the other Z6s. It'll just be probably like 2 or 3 points higher than the original clone one. We know that their basic extra guy, which is probably a pretty decent investment, for the extra die, and that's another die you could surge on, is 15 points. And then the mortar team is range 2 to 4, looks like. It's got at least 1 black die. I'm expecting, like, maybe black-white or black-white-white, based on previous mortars. But it's got critical 1 and suppressive and cumbersome, so you can't use it if you move, but, hey, fire support, and it's got critical 1 and suppressive. So that also has its own surge conversion. So these guys can be very flexible, very tactical. I tried to say flexible and tactical at the same time. They have a grenade upgrade, which isn't shown. It'll probably be a generic one, but who knows? It could be something brand new. They do have grappling hooks, or grappling lines, and then they have the Overwatch, their training selection, which is probably a pretty good investment with either that Z6 or that mortar. If you're just fire support and standby and whatever. There's not a lot to talk about these guys yet, I don't think, especially because we can't see what their sub-weapons cost. Like I said, I don't know. There will probably be some flavor of people who are like, so I can keep my activations, but I can get extra courage, and I can get extra surge tokens while still keeping most of my stats the same. So I think they synergize with Captain Rex and will probably synergize with other future cheaper commanders. If you're running other big set pieces, though, if you're running like a big Obi-Wan army or you're running a big tank army, I'll talk about that later, these guys, you might only sprinkle like 1 or 2 of these guys in, and then as kind of like your keystone guys, and then the rest will be Phase 1 troopers. The scopes look really rad, though. Really good guys. Really cool. Really neato. I presume they have a couple of different helmet options. Also, we're talking about them. This is something that people are talking about. There's a slight price hike here. These are about $10 more expensive than other core units are. It might be due to more options in the set. The B2s are bigger, and those are on the harder plastic sprues. This may just be part of, like, as Legion transitions to more expensive, harder plastic, or because there have been some wibbly-wobbly trade concerns lately while FFG is, like, MSRPing these guys, that, like, there's a slight price hike to kind of, like, compensate and keep other stuff less expensive. We'll kind of see if any stuff gets anointed. I know that, obviously, like, some people are against this, but if you look at your stuff on the cheapo, there's internet retailers. Or, who knows, maybe you'll win some store credit, or you can, like, occasionally, I'm sure your friendly local gaming store will mark this kind of stuff down to get a little bit of a competitive edge on MSRP, just like Amazon does. So, like hopefully people don't have too much to be concerned. I know some people have been like, oh, the heavies are more expensive. They're not really. Actually, the Occupier was slightly more expensive because it was bigger. And I want to tell everybody now, both the AAT and the Saber Tank are, in scale, they're bigger than the Occupier. So it makes sense that they would be the more expensive version of the heavy kit. Some people are also concerned about the Imperial Bunker being quite so expensive. It's like $75. That I think is because it's a big hunk of hard plastic and it's fully detailed. It's got a detailed interior. Maybe it has a customizable interior. Who knows? We'll see as more stuff comes out. Anyway, I'm done talking about Phase 2 Clone Troopers. They're cool. I love these boys. Love these cloney boys. I mean, they don't have the regular DC-15, so I'd have to run some Phase 1 guys anyway, but they do have an individual Mortarman, which is cool. So, we'll make some stuff work. So, on the other end, we've got the B2 Super Battle Droids. Everybody say it with me now. Watch those wrist rockets. They don't have wrist rockets. They do have a rocket launcher guy, but they don't have wrist rockets. They got another thing. They got like a rocket pod. Anyway, so again, here's the classic problem: FFG and zeros. They're tiny stuff. I think it's 40 points, but it could be 48. But it could be 40. Actually, hold on. Wait, I'm dumb. I can do math. It probably is 48 then. Hold on, I gotta do math. 16 times 3 isn't... Fuck, it is 48. Ooh. Well, I mean, we did talk about how cheap they are otherwise. So these guys are 48 points because we can see B2 Super Battle Droid. It costs 16 points to add one. So if you want a full team of 4, because you're a core unit with 3 guys, by the way, that will be significant. That'll be 64 points. On the other hand, like I said, they're pretty cheap, so you probably only need to mix in 1 or 2. Now, unlike Phase 2 Clone Troopers, these are totally close quarters, guys. So we'll get into that in a second. But for your 48 points, you get 3 minis. They have a white defense die, no surges, but they have 2 health per mini and 2 courage, keeping in mind that droid troopers don't get suppressed. They can't get light cover from suppression, but they don't get suppressed. So these big guys, these big chungus, they don't stop until they hit 4 suppression. They might stop earlier if they hit some ion, but again, that's a weird thing, right? Like, on the one hand, ion, devastating for droids. Just awful for droid armies. Right? Really sucks to basically lose actions. On the other hand, ion is all on, honestly, really awful exhaust weapons usually, so nobody takes ion. So, at the very least, the initial wave of CIS coming out, of separatist actions, is going to be like, nobody has any ion. I have free reign. It's like the counter thing to like a lot of people using impact. Like, I know some people have said that, like, ooh, Death Troopers, they're not really good at vehicles, and they aren't. They're not really equipped for that. But they do have a decent volume of fire and decent accuracy, which would be good at mopping up infantry. So, like, they're probably fine when it comes to droid boys, but, like, we've talked about this before. Chip damage with a DLT, not great. For B1s, anyway. For B2s, it's excellent, because B2s have the keyword AI attack, so if you don't give them an order, they have to attack. They don't get to coordinate for free. And they do, however, have Armor 1, which I believe some people have said that's like... Well, I mean, it is basically exactly like having light cover all the time. It's like having cover 1, but you can't be sharpshootered. You can still be impacted. So they do only have naked white defense dice, but they have Armor 1. So without some sharpshooter, you're going to remove some chip damage on your own, and you've got 2 health per mini. So they can take a long-range DLT chip shot, right? They'll cancel one of the hits. They'll cancel a leftover hit and still take the impact. So they've got a little bit of robustness, but they're speed 2. And here's the kicker: so they've got a black die for unarmed, and they have their arm cannons, range 1 to 2, which are 1 black and 1 white die. That's a nasty offense. That means when they're all grouped up, they're dishing out. It's admittedly, no surge, naked. They don't really have any other keywords to give them anything else. But they're dishing out 3 black and 3 white dice. You go for that expensive. That's 8 up to 8 dice. That's a pretty punchy number. But range 1 to 2, and they don't have like special standby rules. They don't have any special tokens or anything. So they're very interesting. I expect that part of this means that you will probably see them, much like you see them on screen. Separatist players are probably not going to sprinkle. They're probably not going to make a whole army out of B2s, right? You just the range isn't good. What you're gonna see is that you're probably gonna see like 1 or 2 B2 units backing up waves of B1 infantry and some other shenanigans. And they have heavy weapons, personal, and comms upgrades. So we know they come with 2 comms. One of them is integrated comms antenna, which is droid troopers only. It says during the command blah 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 can be issued orders, something commanders and operatives. So I think that integrated combat antenna is like long-range comms. Yeah, but it's basically you can, or it might be like comms relay. Basically, what I think it is certain units will count as being in range of other units for purposes of making commands, because there's some other stuff coming out in other things further in this episode which play around with nominating commanders and issuing orders. So there's that. There's the B2 ACM Trooper. So he adds a new weapon, which is at least 3 red dice at range 1 to 2. So it's probably going to be expensive. Like the minimum 16s, this is probably going to be at least 20 points. Probably more, because it's 3 red dice. But it's still range 1 to 2. But basically, this gives them a much more rapid-fire repeating version of their blasters. You can see him. He's the guy with the triple blaster raised up, which is why it's probably just 3 red. But that really adds to that offensive punch, right? That's 3 reds, even at range 1 to 2 with no surge. That's a kick in the teeth. And these guys, like I said, they're already throwing. That'd be full rainbow, right? That'd be 3 red, 3 black, 3 white. That's a big spray. It's going to do some damage to infantry. What about not infantry? Oh, well, also infantry. So the B2 HA Trooper. This is range 2 to 3, it looks like. So no super closeness, but it's at least red, red, white. And it has blast, so you ignore cover. It has cycle, which is a new keyword. I think if I'm reading, like I can only see part of the text, I'm going to take a wild guess that cycle is at the end of a phase where you didn't attack with this weapon, you can ready it, so it'll probably be a tap weapon, because it's impact 2 also, and blast. It'll probably be a tap weapon, but if you, basically, you get to freely reload it if you don't use it for a turn. Okay? So blast impact 2, probably the more expensive option, but with 2 reds, impact 2, range 2 to 3, and blast, so ignore cover. That's like, okay, so infantry's boned, because blast, so your cover is gone, and I'm throwing in 2 red dice into this mix, with lots of other dice. And then impact 2 on vehicles. Probably a decent punch. So, Separatists actually have decent anti-armor options, which is good for reasons, but, so I don't know if you'll see this right away. I think it has, if cycle is what I think it is, I think it's got a valid choice, but yeah, like, you're probably not going to want to go whole hog on these guys, okay? So it's kind of fair that they're more expensive. You're probably not going to want to, like, obviously, and like, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I think the legs are semi-bendable, because we're moving to hard plastic on sprues, so I think it seems like definitely you can arrange the arms at different angles. So I'm very curious, and I think you might even be able to pick, is it all the same arm that shoots? Maybe. But I think you can also position the legs. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if, like, the ACM guy is permanently in step forward mode and the HA guy is permanently in crouching mode. Or more likely, you're just going to get these things on sprues and there's going to be, let's see, 3, 4, and then 2 different heavy options. So there's going to be 6 guys. There's going to be, like, 6 torsos. There's going to be 6 generic blaster arms. There's going to be 2 special arms, and there's going to be 6 sets of legs, right? Like, I'm very curious how these things are going to come out assembled. And they have one more comms upgrade. Hopefully it's the linked targeting thing, because that'll be good for these guys. But yeah, so like I said, if you're concerned about the price, don't be too much, because I don't think practically as an army you're going to field a lot of these guys at once. Maybe you only got to buy a couple kits. So let's go ahead and talk about heavies. So, the big guns, the heavies. We're starting at the Trade Federation because I want to end on the Saber Tank because I love it. So this is the AAT Trade Federation Battle Tank. By the way, the AAT stands for Armored Assault Tank, so tank is in this twice. It's like ATM machine. Anyway, so not only is this a brand new big boy, this requires a new mini base. It's got sides, which because it has hover, which appears to be a new system. Hover is a new keyword ground, and we'll talk about that in a second. But, so basically the point is, though, it can strafe. It can also reverse. These are repulsor vehicles which act like ground vehicles, these two. So, new base. And I should point out that this is the largest single mini that FFG has put out in this game. Because In case you don't know, the length of this thing is greater than the Occupier, like, and especially with that wide fan. I'm really glad they decided to do it. I know a lot of people were like, oh, there's no way. No, there is a way. They made a big freaking base, and they put it up on a little stilt because it's a little hover tank. But anyway, they did it. I'm really glad because this is a very iconic unit to the Clone Wars, right? Like, this is a big deal. People are going to remember this shape, and they're going to be like, rad. So, what do we know about the AAT? So, it's a heavy. It looks like it costs 170 points. It has 9 health, 6 resiliency. So, let me put that into comparison. Like, I should probably compare it to Rebel stuff because I feel like the CIS is the budget army, but their toys are very expensive. So, let's see. The ATST is 195, and the Occupier is 155. So, the AAT lands somewhere kind of in between those two, and let's see where its stats rank up between the two, just so I can look quickly. So, the ATST is obviously 11. You know, it's a big boy, so this has a couple less than that, and it's also got a couple less resiliency. But it's got 1 more hit point than the Occupier. Sounds about right. And also, what's the speed on this thing? It's only speed 1, interesting. So it's got red defense, though. No surges at all, only 1 speed. So it's a slow boy, as befitting something big and heavy. So let's talk about these weapons first, before we even get into the keywords. You've got the lateral anti-personnel lasers, which are fixed front, and those are range 1 to 2, and they're 3 black. Pretty normal effect. They let you get some spread in. And then you also have the MX-8 artillery laser cannon. So this is the main gun, the big swivel turret. It is not fixed, so obviously as befitting a 360 turret, it can fire in all directions. It has impact 1, it has critical 2, and it has high velocity. This means that against armor, you get 1 conversion for free and possibly 2 conversions. They can't spend dodge tokens, and it's range 2 to 4, and it's 4 red dice. This is a beast. This is a big gun. You know, decent damage cap. 4 dice is pretty accurate. With critical 2 means you've got half surges. So, you know, 2 of these are almost always guaranteed to be a hit. High velocity, so no dodges, and impact, and it's range 2 to 4. Big boy gun. So there's no, like, there's no sharpshooter, so the critical is kind of waffly on whether or not it will break cover. But armored units, beware. This thing can get up to like 3 conversions to crits on 4 dice. It'll slap you. It'll slap you real good. That's without giving into the other thing that we're going to talk about. But it's a big boy gun. Oh, and let's talk about those keywords. So, it's got AI attack. It's still an AI ship. It's still droid powered. So if you don't issue it any orders, its first action will be attack. It has armor and arsenal 2. So it can fire with up to 2 weapons. Here's its first new keyword, barrage. That's right, if you do not use arsenal during your attack action, you may perform up to 2 attack actions. So you get 2 attacks per turn, because it says attack action. If you don't arsenal, so if somebody's at range 2, you can really fuck their shit up with 4 red dice and 2 black dice, or whatever happens with some of those other upgrades that we're going to talk about. Or AI attack doesn't matter if you're parked in range. At range 2 to 4, you can just go blam blam with the main gun. So this thing is a terrifying beast. This is a machine of war, okay? And it has hover ground, which is a new keyword. So we don't know what hover does, but hover ground is you can reverse, strafe, and standby, which is not normal for repulsor vehicles, because normally they have speeder keyword, so they have to zoom. So this thing can standby. This thing can reverse, and it can also do a new movement type, which is called strafe, which I believe only hover units can do, probably, because they have the notched bases. But presumably this means it can scoot straight sideways without having to pivot, which is good because it has weak point 2 in the rear. So anybody attacking this thing from behind in the rear arc gets 2 free points of impact. You never want to let anybody in that back door, kids. It has a pilot upgrade. It has 2 of these new missile type upgrades. I'm tentatively calling this munitions or ordnance. Ordnance makes sense. People know that. And then it has a comms upgrade. And we know it comes with HQ uplink. So these ordnance upgrades seem to be kind of like special projectiles you can fire. So we know it comes with 3 pilots. One of them is unique, and then 2 of them are not unique. So you can either do a T-Series tactical droid pilot, which is only 5 points, very cheap. This loses AI attack, and you gain field commander. So as far as I can tell, field commander seems to read that after a friendly command card is played, I think it's a friendly generic command card, but I'm not sure. There's like an extra word in there. You may be nominated as a commander. So this is something I actually wanted for a while. Vehicles can now be commanders, kind of. They're kind of generic commanders. So if you play a generic command card, it can be played as it is from this ship. So you can have one of these boys up in front, and then you can pick escorts to be with you, or you can nominate yourself. So that's pretty cool. And it's only 5 points, and it means you lose AI attack. It's very good if you want to use this as a pseudo-commander. There's no cheaper commander for CIS yet, but I presume they will have to at some point. Right? Like, they've got it with a lot of these big-budget toys. So you can also get an OOM series droid pilot. I think that means that you get... it says trooper, so I'm going to guess that's coordinate droid trooper. So because you've got a droid leader in there, that means that a tactical series battle droid, you can have it issue orders to friendlies. So that's a really cool effect too. And then there's a unique one, which gives you a free action, which maybe does something suppressed. But we'll get more details later. And then there's 3 types of shells so far that we can see. One of them I think is Bunker Buster. It's range 1 to 2. It has blast, cycle, fixed front, and scatter minimum. No idea on the dice on these. All of these I think have cycle, which is cool. So they're clearly exhaustible, but you can probably alternate which ones you fire, right? One is armor something, so I think that's armor piercing. It's got impact, I want to say 3 is that number, and it's fixed front, and it's got cycle, and it's range 2 to 3. And then the last one is got critical and high velocity with cycle, and is range 2 to 4. So that's probably like high energy shell or something. All very intense, very important, very useful to you, right? Like, that's going to be a lot of options. God knows how expensive those are. But as a repulsor vehicle, like this, you're going to have a lot of flexibility and a lot of firepower in this thing. It's a great unit. I'm super excited to see the details on this stuff, and this is a great sculpt. Great sculpt. Okay, let's talk about the Saber Tank. So in this slide, we have the TX-130 Saber-class fighter tank expansion pack. So you'll notice this bad boy is very similar to the last one. It's also 170 points, it looks like. That could be, though, a 6 or an 8 or something in there. You know, they could be slightly different. It's got 9 wounds, 6 resiliency, or resilience. Red defense die, no surge, but it is speed 2. Because it does have slightly different weapon choices, alright? So its only weapon default is at range 1 to 4, the twin lateral laser cannons. It's a double rainbow, which is fixed front, but is critical 1 and impact 2. So with 2 reds, 2 blacks, and 2 whites, critical 1, impact 2, that's a pretty decent spread. That's going to chew up armor pretty good. It's going to be pretty ballsy. So it's got armor. It's got arsenal 2. It has hover ground, so all the same stuff from the AAT applies. It also has weak point, but it's weak point 1 to rear and side, so you're really going to want to strafe at this thing. You don't want anybody getting in your sides or back, especially not if they already have impact. Then it has a new thing, outmaneuver. You can spend dodge tokens to block crit results. That's very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Hopefully, some future upgrade for the airspeeder gives it that. But anyway, we're talking about Republic stuff now. So all in all, pretty robust unit. It's a little bit faster than the AAT, but does not bring quite as much boom by default. So it's got a pilot upgrade, it's got a hardpoint upgrade, it's got 1 ordnance upgrade, it's got a comms upgrade. So let's talk about what we can see about pilots. So this kind of flip-flops, I think, from the AAT in that it's got two 2 unique pilots and 1 generic. So, also, interestingly enough, unlike the, at least as far as I can tell, unlike the Imperial and Rebel pilots, there's not a lot of crossover. I think that the pilots, at least as they're designed, are just for these units. So I don't know if that means that, like, heavies that are vehicles will be slow coming, or heavies that are vehicles that can have pilots anyway will be slow coming for these 2 factions. And so there's not a lot of rush to make sure there's cross-compatibility, or just it's a difference in the design philosophy, right? Like, it lets them do different stuff. Anyway, we can see one of the uniques is Ayla Secura. Great to see her there. And I'm probably pretty sure that means that she's got at least an upper half mini that can be put out here. For 5 points, and she is a pilot who gives you Inspire 2 and Field Commander. So, very much turns your expensive tank into a front leader. I think this will combo well with Rex. And then there's a probably veteran clone pilot, driver, something like that. But that's got a lot of text into keywords, so I can't read it. And then Plo Koon is the other one, and he has a free action. Also, no idea what that does, but he's unique. So that's like no keywords or anything. There's no speculation there. We can kind of see some stuff with the 2 hard points. One of them is presumably the beam cannon because it has a new special keyword, which is called Beam 2, and nothing else, but it's range 1 to 4, I want to say. So that's probably the defaulty type one. And then it's got some other kind of TX thing that's got critical. And maybe it says launcher, so maybe it's got, like, mortar mount. Let me actually try and look up the article to see if it talks about the options for the sculpt. So it's also got ordnance upgrades. So that's out there. Let me see. You can, on the sculpt, you can definitely make it with the missile pods open or closed, so that's cool. So let's see. Swift tank, agile, vulnerable, Jedi and clones, new ordnance, tank with shells, unpainted detail can be assembled with missile pods open or closed. You can also customize the look of the turret between. So it's a twin laser turret, all right, is what the L is, and then the beam cannon turret. The turret can only be manned by a clone trooper with either helmet. That's sad that it's not. That even though Ayla on her art is like poking out, she can't poke out. But that makes sense though because the turret gunner is not necessarily a commander, right? Like he's not the pilot. But so you've got either their twin laser turret or which has critical, we can see, or you can get the beam, which will have a new effect. And then oh my, I just realized this. Those are all the same. So ordnance upgrades are generic, it looks like. I didn't even think about this. They're not restricted to units, so you're just making me that realize. So it also has all the same bunker buster, armor piercing, and high speed rounds. So all that stuff I said on the AAT also applies. That's really cool. And then they have HQ uplink and another comms upgrade. So that is very interesting that those are generic. Now, obviously, you can only have, if you're thinking about this with the AAT, you can only have one of each individually named upgrade anyway. It's just the unique dot means you can put them that multiples in your list. Because remember, you can take up to 2 heavy units, right? You can take up to 2 heavies. Yeah, that was a whole thing. Veers walks the dogs. I don't know if you're gonna do double TX lists, but you could try that. You could try Rex and the boys, or Plo Koon's boys. Though in that combo, I think Ayla is a better pull because she has Field Commander and Inspire. But anyway, so that's pretty interesting. We'll have to see what the twin laser does, other than critical. And it's like I have no idea what range that is. Is that 1 to 3 or 1 to 4? It's probably 3, but it could be anything. So basically, what I'm getting is that the Saber is, unless you pop ordnance in there, the Saber is not quite as much of a fierce fighter as the AAT is. The AAT can like double tap with those 2 blobs of red dice on an armored target, and they're shredded, right? Like that's critical to impact 1, and it's not fixed, so that's fully turreted. The Saber is probably not something you can run naked. You might be able to run it naked, but I don't think you're possibly getting your best out of it. You'll probably want to at least include a pilot and probably one of your hardpoint weapons so you can use the turret. Because otherwise, you've got those fixed forward guns, which are pretty impressive, but then you're not doing anything with Arsenal, right? And they're still fixed front, and they're only critical 1, but they do have impact 2. So It's a little bit better, I think, at armor fishing because you've got 2 red dice. There's 2 hits that are basically guaranteed. That's well, I guess it's a 66 with no offensive surge at all. It's a 66% chance. No, I'm dumb. It's 1 in 4, so it's not 66. It's more like 80%. It's 6 out of 8. Math. I'm not good with numbers, okay, guys? They confuse me. I didn't do good at math. But it'll be 2 out of 8 are failures if there's no surge. But that's still a decent number of natural crits and hits that you can convert to crits with impact 2 on those 2 reds. And then you've got blacks and whites backing up and a surge to flip. So probably got a decent spread. So it's kind of weird, right? Like on the one hand, the Saber's better at keeping its mobility, which makes sense because it's described as kind of an agile, fast-moving tank. It's a fast attack kind of tank rather than the AAT, which is a big boy tank. Like the AAT is you find a hill you can park that on, and you just settle in and just are like, oh hey, you're out of cover, or I don't care because I've got critical 1 and 2 impact. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw 8 dice at you, one after the other with high velocity. Pew pew. Your day is ruined. Like it's gonna do tank things and just basically be like, okay, you want to try and get close to do some damage. The Saber is gonna be much more slipperier. You're gonna like slip it in and around and like pop it over some difficult terrain. Have it strafe in on people. You got to watch your sides and back, and you can definitely be more of an armor killer with that impact too. But it is fixed front, and this doesn't have like a free reposition either. So it doesn't have full pivot, and it doesn't have free repositioning like the Occupier does. We'll have to see what the other pilots do and stuff, and like what the hard points are. Like I said, I'll really have to see what Beam does. I'm very curious about that, but I can't read it at all. The twin laser turret will probably be cheaper, and then it has some more critical on there, and then that will probably be your default option, like I said, where you can go like, okay, we're gonna hit you up with just a spray a blast with some decent critical. That will have a decent chance of chewing through armor, cover, whatever. So we'll see. All right, and that is all the new units that have been announced for the Clone Wars, what I called their Clone Wars Wave 2. I told you it was going to be a big, long video. All right. Well, like I said, super excited about all the new, prices and stuff. But, the sculpts are really good. I like the unit selection. Everybody who didn't think it was the Saber Tank can eat me, because I said that was a good canonical, because it was described in a couple of stuff and something FFG worked with recently in the RPG supplements, and just, it's really neato. It's a real neato design. I'm super glad to say it. I don't think I've said that. No, wait, I have said it before that I'm a classic Battlefront player. So basically, my dream is when I can put all my classic Battlefront units on the field. So, hey, FFG, Phase 0 Dark Troopers? I'm kidding. I do need whatever the hell they're going to release. They were called... Was it Commanders? I think they were called... The Marines type guys, the pseudo snowtroopers, were called Commanders, I think, in Battlefront 2, and they had their chain guns, their shoulder-mounted, big boys. So, give me that, and give me jump troopers. I need infantry with jetpacks anyway, but yeah, so I figure for the time being I can probably sub out Phase 0 Dark Troopers for Death Troopers. They're basically the same thing, and I like Death Troopers a lot. Anyway, different discussion, but yeah, the Saber Tank is a really nice unit, and I'm glad they brought it in. I'm glad they're going this direction. I think I said this on the FFG live commentary. I'm like, I really want the LAAT, which I'm sure they will use the more reasonable scale because that's the one that's on Databank, and that book that has that scale that everybody quotes as it being too huge has other continuity errors, and you shouldn't necessarily trust the Star Wars wiki just because it says something, right? Just because some fan decided that that's what that meant does not make it true. Cross-check your... not only cite your sources, kids, double-check your sources. See where that information come from. That statistical number could be fake news. And the AATE also, because they said that, in a question about the SSD, they said that, somebody asked them, would you be open to doing more big releases like that? And they're like, well, they cost a lot of money. So I'm like, ooh, that's probably going to be a slow boat then. We're not going to see a lot of those. So, also, I'm still a lot of people are like, oh, they did the Superstar Destroyer, that means they can do the AAT. I'm like, yeah, it's going to cost you like $400, and they're going to have to release a whole new game mode for it because it literally doesn't fit. Like, I don't know. A lot of people don't think about how tall the AT-AT is, sorry. There's a lot of A's and T's in Star Wars, and I have just been talking about one of them. Now I'm talking about another one. But the AT-AT is huge. It's super tall, in addition to being super long. Like, it's already most of the length of the game board. Like, at least with the, like I said, I don't know necessarily how you do a singular base for it, but, like, the AT-TE, at least, is relatively low to the ground. It's relatively squat and compact. But, like, I don't know. It's weird in scale. I'm sure that they'd love to do it if it makes sense, but I'm just like, God, I will never purchase one because it'll be way too much expense for a piece of plastic that I'm just going to be like, nah, this is not worth it. I'd have to play a special model on bigger terrain and blah, blah, blah. Like, people are already upset that they have to pay $75 for a block of terrain, right? Anyway. Don't at me with that. I'm still dubious, and I'm like, even if they make it, I'm still not for it personally because there's going to be a huge price point on it. Anyway, like I said, I don't know if the way the pilots are phrased means they're trying different design goals with the Clone Wars, or if they're not expecting a lot of heavies in Clone Wars. Don't know. That's why my voice is shaking. I'm asking questions. It's my questioning tone. But I won't blather on too much. They did say that there are still updates to come for later this year, not next year, which are presumably for Civil War stuff. Get some stuff out there, get some ideas. It's very interesting. We might see some more releases of some other stuff. And like I said, the Escape Pod Battlefield expansion is supposedly coming with R2 and C-3PO as playable units for both Republic and Rebels, so that's actually kind of a soft Rebel and Republic expansion. Hopefully I don't really know what they could do that's both, other than, like, releasing maybe an operative Palpatine who also could be operative Darth Sidious. I don't know if there's a lot of cross-compatibility with Separatists and Empire, interestingly enough. And who knows, maybe they'll come up with cross-compatibility for Empire and Republic, too. There's a lot of shared stuff. The poor Separatists get left out. Other than the in X-Wing, the Separatists should really also get their own Sheathapede in addition to Rebels. But anyway, different discussion, different game. So, yeah, I don't know. The future looks bright. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's so slow, but this is how Legion is. The developers design big blobs of units, and then the production guys and the marketing guys get a hold of them, and they're like, okay, we can do like a couple of units a month, a couple of packs a month, and then the next month, and so on and so forth. And like I said, the design philosophies for these are different and possibly fine-tuned, but also just different. So, like I said, I don't know. Like, in a vacuum, you're like, oh, wow, B2s aren't coming until early next year, and they're going to be super expensive. But at the same time, if you actually look at the units, and you think about them from the gameplay standard, and, like, are you so eager to deploy 6 of them right away? You don't need to maybe buy a full set. Just saying. And I know, there are some people who are more hobby-focused who are like, I just want to buy as many sets as I could possibly field. I want to buy Grand Army sets. And I'm like, okay, you accept that you're doing... This is something people are bad about, is that, like, you should accept that you're doing non-standard buying of these things, right? Like, FFG is primarily making a game. And while they are kind of excited to get into this hobby aspect and to introduce people to this hobby aspect, which is why they're slowly ramping up to hard plastic sprues, why they're slowly ramping up customization, why they're now starting to offer their own paints and stuff in partnership with other people, right? Like at the Gen Con keynote, Andrew Navarro said, I'm really glad to see that Legion is not just bringing in Minis fans and FFG fans, but also is bringing in lots of fans of the Star Wars license who have never touched a Mini before, right? So you got to think, like, they were at Celebration and they had, Paint and Take Home at their booth, right? Which means they got a lot of exposure from people who aren't used to this sort of thing. So, like, you are not necessarily the ideal customer that FFG is aiming for, and FFG might not be aiming for a singular ideal customer, but trying to find a figure way to balance to, like, casual hobbyists, deep hobbyists, people who are just picking it up for the models and the license kind of thing, and, like, kind of trying to find a balance between all their customers so that they make more money and continue to sell Legion kits and can continue to afford this license to make this great game, Just words of wisdom from your buddy Omega here. Alrighty, I'll let you guys go. This recording is now reaching an hour long. Hopefully it'll trim down a little bit shorter than that, but we'll see. So with this, I will leave you. If you like this video, give it a like. Please do. Like, I don't always get a lot of like action on these, so it kind of helps if you're actually watching and get a few likes out of you to know the video's popping, and that helps YouTube's algorithms or whatever. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. You know, what are your thoughts on how the Republican separatist armies are shaping up? Are you gonna be that guy and you're gonna say, "Excuse me, Omega, I will buy 6 super battle droids and run them. I don't care how expensive it is, both in points and money." Let me know. You can also get in touch with us on our Discord. That link is in the description. If you're new here and haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you can always get our latest content. I do these pretty regularly when news comes out. You know, there's a lot of these in the last couple days, so hey, it works to subscribe. And I do other Fantasy Flight stuff too sometimes. Do some other stuff, do some actual plays, who knows. Got lots of nerdy things going on here. And also, if you're already subscribed, considering that bell for notifications so you always know we post a new video, because maybe we double post videos. I don't know what I'm doing with these videos yet. There's a lot of speculation on my part, which is like, I don't know how this is going to work on the schedule when I make it, and then the schedule happens kind of like that. So, you know, notifications are good to let people know that when stuff is happening. And lastly, like I said at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can access to episodes early and other things. And it also really helps us out and supports us in doing what we do. But you can also just watch our stuff. Or consider checking out our merch store. I don't really have anything Star Wars flavored, but perhaps you will enjoy our SWAT, Special Waifus and Tactics shirt. Just think about it. Link is in the description. Alrighty, I will see you guys in the next video. Be sure to stay tuned for the end card, and also our lovely Patreon credits, but also the end card part, because that'll have links to other Legion videos you can check out if you haven't checked out the counterpart videos and stuff yet. Alrighty, I'm running out of voice, so I'm going to get really gravelly and I'm going to go away now. Remember the basics of CQC.